Level 1. Youth League Cadre. You will spend 40 years learning to say everything without saying anything at all. And the one time it truly matters, silence may be the only thing that saves you. Right now, you're 22, and you think loyalty is a feeling. By the time this ends, you'll understand it as a language, one with no written grammar, where the wrong pause can cost you a career and the right silence can save your life. This is your climb through the most secretive power structure on Earth. This is China's Politburo, and this is what it costs to reach the room with no windows. Nobody tells you the evaluation has started. You just notice, gradually, that certain classmates get invited to certain meetings, and you're one of them. The branch secretary is a man named Comrade Lin Wei, patient, soft-spoken, the kind of person who never criticizes directly. He guides. Weekly study sessions cover party history, current policy, the correct way to discuss both. You write essays. You volunteer for things that quietly make their way into a file you never see. Lin Wei's only real lesson comes almost in passing. The party doesn't ask what you believe, he tells your study group one afternoon. It asks what you're willing to say out loud. You write it down without fully understanding it. You understand it 3 weeks later when a classmate, sharp, capable, well-liked, says something slightly wrong about a policy in an open discussion. Nothing happens to him publicly. He simply stops being invited to things. His name quietly disappears from the track everyone assumed he was on. No one discusses why. No one asks. Level 2. County Party Secretary. Your first real posting is a rural county. Agricultural, unremarkable. The kind of place where success or failure depends entirely on numbers you're responsible for producing. Your mentor here is a district director named Zhang, a man who has clearly done this a long time. He teaches you the unspoken art of the monthly report. Not fabrication, exactly, but a very particular kind of framing. A county with no problems, he tells you, watching you draft your first quarterly summary, either has no people or a secretary who's very good at his job. A local irrigation project fails midway through the year. A contractor cut corners, funds were misallocated somewhere you can't quite trace. You have a choice nobody states out loud. Report it plainly and absorb the damage to your record, or find a way to describe it that survives review. Zhang doesn't tell you what to do. He just watches which way you decide, and something in his expression afterward tells you he already knew. Level 3. City-level deputy mayor. The city is bigger. The stakes are bigger. And for the first time, you're dealing directly with developers, contractors, the kind of men who build things with other people's money. One of them, a businessman named Mr. Chen, takes an interest in being your friend. Dinners, introductions to people who could be useful to you. Nothing is ever asked for directly. That's the part that surprises you. Nobody asks for a bribe here, you tell a colleague. Half joking, half not. They just make refusing feel very lonely. You navigate the relationship carefully. Enough warmth to keep doors open, enough distance to keep your record clean, or clean enough. You learn, at this level, that the actual skill isn't refusing corruption or embracing it. It's understanding exactly how close you can stand to it without it becoming yours. Level 4. Provincial Standing Committee member. You're in the provincial capital now, and for the first time, the politics aren't administrative. They're personal. Every senior official belongs to someone's network, and standing alone at this level isn't neutral. It's dangerous. You align with a vice governor named Wu, capable, well-connected, generous with his protection, in exchange for something he never quite names, but always expects: total loyalty. You don't choose a side because you believe in it, you explain to a younger colleague, echoing something Wu once told you. You choose it because standing alone here is a death sentence.
A rival faction begins probing at Wu's position within the year. Nothing overt, just quiet questions, quiet reviews. You realize uncomfortably that whatever happens to Wu will happen to everyone standing near him, including you. Level 5. Central Committee Member. Beijing. At last. The Party Congress. Hundreds of officials in one hall. Votes that are technically open and functionally decided before anyone raises a hand. You meet a fellow committee member named Han. Warm, articulate, the kind of colleague who remembers your children's names. He is also unmistakably competing with you for the same handful of paths upward. We vote unanimously so often, you observe quietly to no one in particular, watching the count come in exactly as expected for the 4th time that week, that unanimity itself has become the message. You notice something else at this level, something small but unsettling. Wu's name isn't mentioned as often as it used to be. His influence, once a given, has started to feel conditional. Level 6. Ministry-level position. You run a national ministry now. Real administrative power, real public visibility, and permanently, the quiet presence of the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection, watching from somewhere just outside your field of vision. An inspector named Officer Tang visits for what's described as a routine review. He's polite. He asks ordinary questions, and somehow every question feels like a door being tested to see if it's locked. He never accused me of anything, you tell your wife that night. He just made sure I knew he could if he ever needed to. Within months, Wu is formally placed under investigation. Your name surfaces in the files, not as a target, not yet, just as a name that appears near his, enough times to be noted. Level 7. Politburo Member. You've reached the inner circle now, one of roughly 25 people who sit at the true center of the country's decision-making. And you discover, almost immediately, that individuality has quietly disappeared from your life. Every public appearance is rehearsed. Every statement is collective. Personal opinion, at this level, simply stops being recorded anywhere. A senior colleague, Comrade Yao, explains the real rule of the room during a quiet moment between sessions. At this level, you're not judged by what you accomplish, he tells you. You're judged by what you're never seen doing. Wu's investigation concludes that year. He retires. He is never seen publicly again. Nobody discusses it. His name simply stops appearing. Level 8. Politburo Standing Committee, Zhongnanhai, the innermost circle, one of roughly 7 people who hold the true center of power in the country. You've reached the peak, and you understand almost immediately that the peak is the most exposed place you have ever stood. You meet a rising official named Fang, respectful, sharp, quietly ambitious in the exact way you once were. Watching him reminds you uncomfortably of yourself 40 years earlier. I had spent 30 years learning to be replaceable in public and irreplaceable in private, you reflect one evening. I never learned which one would save me. An anonymous discipline complaint is filed against you. No one confirms who filed it. No one tells you what it contains. It simply exists now, somewhere in a file, the way Wu's once did. Level 9. The investigation. This is where the ground moves. The calls stop being answered. Colleagues who greeted you warmly last month are suddenly, carefully, unavailable. A formal investigation opens. No charges, no timeline, no clear answer about whether this is routine or terminal. You are taken into a process the party calls internal discipline review. And from inside that room, protection and punishment look exactly the same. An investigator who never gives his name refers only to the committee. He asks the same kinds of questions Tang once asked, except now there's no pretense of routine behind them. Nobody tells you if you're being punished or protected, you realize, sitting alone after another session that revealed nothing.
both look exactly the same from the inside of that room. Weeks later, an old group photograph is republished in state media, a party gathering from years earlier. Your face has been quietly removed from it. No announcement, no explanation, just an absence where you used to stand.
Level 10. The Reckoning. What happens next depends on which version of this story turns out to be true, and even now, you're not entirely certain which one it is. In one version, the investigation closes quietly. You retire with full honors, a respected elder statesman, invited to occasional ceremonial appearances, your name spoken with careful warmth in state media. You spend your remaining years in a comfortable apartment in Beijing, receiving visits from officials who are polite in the specific way people are polite to someone who might still, technically, have influence.
In the other version, there is no ceremony, no announcement, simply an absence, an office reassigned, a title transferred, your name quietly omitted from the next party Congress roster, the way Wu's was. The way it happens to men whose names you used to see in the papers every week, and then, one day, stopped seeing at all.
Fang, the young official you mentored, sits on the standing committee now. He climbs the way you once did. He will learn, the way you learned, that the version of this story he ends up living was never really his to choose. I climbed for 40 years toward a room with no windows, you say, to your family or to no one, depending on which version this is. And when I finally understood why it had none, it was already too late to climb back down.
If this showed you what power really costs at the very top, comment which government or agency you want broken down next. Subscribe if you're new here. This channel takes you somewhere most people only ever imagine from the outside.